The Cold War was one of the most intense and complex periods in world history, lasting from the late 1940s to the early 1990s. It wasn't a direct military conflict but rather a prolonged state of political, economic, and ideological tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. While most people know about the nuclear arms race and the space race, there are many fascinating and lesser-known facts about this historical period. Here are the top 10 most fascinating facts about the Cold War. 1. The Cold War never turned into an actual war. Despite lasting for more than 4 decades, the Cold War never led to a direct military battle between the US and the Soviet Union. Instead, both superpowers engaged in proxy wars, such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War, where they supported opposing sides but never fought each other directly. 2. The Berlin Wall became the ultimate symbol of division. The Berlin Wall, built in 1961, physically and ideologically separated East and West Berlin. It became a powerful symbol of the Cold War, dividing families and cutting off East Berliners from the democratic West. When it was finally torn down in 1989, it marked the beginning of the end of the Cold War. 3. The space race was a key part of the conflict. Both the US and the Soviet Union used space exploration as a way to demonstrate their technological and scientific superiority. The Soviets launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, in 1957, followed by the first human in space, Yuri Gagarin, in 1961. The US responded by landing the first humans on the Moon in 1969, effectively winning the space race. 4. Nuclear weapons could have been used multiple times. The threat of nuclear war loomed over the world for decades. One of the closest moments to nuclear conflict was the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 when the Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles in Cuba. A tense 13-day standoff between the US and the USSR nearly escalated into war before a peaceful resolution was reached. 5. The US and Soviet Union spent billions on espionage. Both countries relied heavily on spies and intelligence agencies like the CIA, US, and the KGB, USSR, to gather information about each other's military plans and technology. Spies played a critical role in Cold War operations, and some of them, like double agents, secretly worked for both sides. 6. The Cold War sparked a global propaganda battle. Both the US and the Soviet Union used propaganda to promote their ideologies. The US created media campaigns about the benefits of democracy and capitalism, while the Soviet Union promoted communism as the future of global society. Movies, books, and radio broadcasts were all used to spread political messages. 7. The Olympic Games became a battlefield for pride. During the Cold War, the Olympics were not just about sports, they were also a political competition. Both the US and the Soviet Union used the Games to showcase their athletic dominance. In 1980, the US boycotted the Moscow Olympics in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union responded by boycotting the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. 8. The arms race led to an insane amount of weapons. The US and the Soviet Union both built enormous stockpiles of nuclear weapons in a race to outmatch each other's firepower. At its peak, the world had over 60,000 nuclear warheads. The concept of mutually assured destruction, MAD, kept both sides from using them, as any nuclear attack would have led to total global devastation. 9. Hollywood was caught up in the Red Scare. During the Cold War, fear of communism spread in the US, leading to a period known as the Red Scare. Many Hollywood actors, writers, and directors were accused of having communist ties. Some were blacklisted, meaning they couldn't work in the industry, while others were forced to testify before Congress. 10. The Cold War ended peacefully in 1991. Unlike most historical rivalries, the Cold War ended without a war. As the Soviet economy collapsed and political reforms swept across Eastern Europe, the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, marking the official end of the Cold War. The US emerged as the world's sole superpower, and many former Soviet states became independent nations. The Cold War was a period of intense rivalry, espionage, and global tension, but it also led to some of the most remarkable technological and political changes in history. It shaped the modern world in many ways, from space exploration to global diplomacy. What fascinates you the most about this historical era?